So last week's video, we're looking at an arrangement of Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer, which I've been working on. We're looking specifically at the four-way close technique, and we were leading in with the note categories technique for jazz arranging. And this is, of course, from Gary Lindsay's Jazz Arranging Techniques from Quartet to Big Band book. And so I wanted to just go into a bit of detail. This is only a short video, just go into a bit of detail about note categories to further explain it with some maybe some Sibelius examples. Now, I know this isn't the most engaging content, so here's me just doodling on my guitar, providing some sort of backing music. That's better. So the idea of this is so that you can use these techniques in your ensemble setting to help arrange some of your music and give you a few ideas. So a lot of these techniques are applicable to many different situations. You know, whether you're in a quartet or you're working with a local concert band, you might be able to use some of these techniques if you want to harmonise things. So without further delay, let's get into the Sibelius examples. I was going to skip this part, but I thought I'd just go ahead and record it because instead of because of the context. So Gary Lindsay is talking about brass and woodwind. So this is for, you know, like a jazz band. So he's talking about saxophones and brass, and so but we're in concert bands, especially community concert bands, and musicians being really music isn't as central as it used to be, and that's a whole different topic of conversation. But because of this, we've got to be very adaptive in what we do and how we arrange things. And so I'd work from this. So what I'll do is I'll create two staves. I'll create a bunch for, say, 4 saxes. So maybe 2 altos, tenor and baritone, or maybe just 2 tenors and 2 altos. And then in another stave I'll have the same, but I might do something that's more applicable to the concert band I'm working with. So maybe 2 violins and 2 trumpets, or maybe probably actually 2 trumpets, tuba, and a violin. And this is tricky. Like this is pretty typical of what you get in a concert band, and of course all different levels of playing as well. So you've got to take that into consideration. All right, so I've got blank stave. Yes, I want to add instruments. Okay, what do I want? So I always, when I arrange and voice things, I always put just a treble and a bass stave in. I might do this in piano. There we go. And then what I do is I'll score the thing on the piano, score the voicing, so I can see if there's any obvious flat nines or tritones in there. Before I put to the voices, it's easier to see, and it also allows me to be flexible with how I voice things. Like things, if you want a line to move and you've got a harmony piece that's staying on one note, the line doesn't seem to move. Like that person, like of course it's going to sound different in context, but it's not going to feel like it's moving for that person. And this is where switching voices can be quite useful, because it feels like the line is moving somewhere, and so it will swing harder. So let's have a look. Let's go. Okay, so we've got our piano. So it's going to be the same thing. All right, so we're going to do woodwind, and we're going to go tenor saxophone. Tenor saxophone, alto saxophone, and 2 tenors. We're not going to use baritone. Actually, yeah, we might use baritone, because that'd be easier for. That's my dog knocking the microphone. Yep, cool. Cool. Okay, so that's our brass, our woodwind deal there. So now we've got our crazy concert band set up. Maggie, can you stop? Please stop knocking the mic. That's really annoying. Okay. Animals. Right. So we want brass. Okay. Right, we've got 2 trumpets. And we want we actually want a tuba. Now the issue with tuba is it likes to be written low, apparently, like below the bass stave. So we're using like a 4-way close but drop 4 voicing most of the time. Just it's very limiting. So having this sort of instrumentation in these ranges and intensities is not the ideal mix. So different instruments are going to sound differently at different ranges, and that's basically our intensity. Now, Gary Lindsay in Chapter 5 of Jazz Arranging Techniques from Quartet to Big Band discusses the range and intensity of various instruments, but he hasn't included the tuba because it's typically not a jazz instrument. But in concert band, like you work with what you got. That's pretty much it, especially in the country. Like, whatever musicians you can get hold of is just so valuable, especially if they can read. Reading's just become this thing that's non-existent anymore. Anyway, so now we want, tuba. We're going to have a violin 1. There's sometimes a violin 2, but it depends if I'm playing guitar or violin. It just depends. So I'm going to school myself for guitar, but these are just basic examples, which means I'm not going to school myself in here at all. So this is what we got. So it's in chapter 10, page 83. So this is harmonization techniques, 4-way close. So a working knowledge of chord symbols is essential to understanding the material covered in this and subsequent chapters. For the purposes of this book, the author describes the root, 7th, 5th, and 3rd of a chord as note categories from which a wide variety of substitute voices will be derived. Okay, so if you haven't seen the video on Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer, scoring Rudolph, I think is what it's called, I read this page out. So I just wanted to talk about our our different note categories. So a chord, and we've got what's a common chord progression. So let's go 1, 6, 2, 5, 1. Right. So we're going to go C6. I'll do this over the piano. Whoops, wrong place. So C6. So these are generalizations as well. This is just how I do it. And we're going to go A minor 7, and we're going to go D minor 7. We're going to go G7. So I can alter any of these chords. And we're going to go C6 again. Okay, this is just an example. And so we've got a melody. Nothing to... We'll just do eggs. Eggs with sticks. So let's put here. And we're going to go here up to the 7th. And I'm going to go down here. We might go, or we might even just go. So here's the example, just playing through the computer speakers of just our little melody that we wrote. And this could be used for backing lines, or we could syncopate it a bit, and it might, we'd be able to turn it into a bit of a melody. But this is just for the purpose of 4-way close. Are you asleep yet? Excuse the terrible sound coming from the speakers. It's very soft, I know, but I'm not going to change the audio engine options just to put it back through my monitors on my head again. That's just crazy because then I have to change it back anyway, so it doesn't matter. So what category is this? So our root note here, sorry, our chord here is a C6. So what's in a C6? Well, we've got a C, an E and a G forms our triad, and of course the 6 would be the A. So 1, 3, 5, 6. Now in a C6 category, according to in a 6 category, according to Gary Lindsay, the 6th takes the place of the 7th. So if we're talking about, like, the function would be like a C major 7, so it'd be C, E, G, B natural. But there are issues with B natural against the root note being C. So C6 is a really easy way to voice a tonic chord without that flat 9 or minor second interval. So what we're doing here is we've substituted. So if we had a C major 7, for example, let's just voice a C major 7. Right, we've got E in melody, we've got a 5th. Okay, and what do we end up with if you listen very carefully? Right, C major 7. Now, we've got an issue between this note and this note, being C and B, forms a flat 9 chord. So this is where we move our 7th category down to a 6th. So we've got root category, 5th category, 7th category, because that was a B, and the 3rd category. Our melody was the 3rd. So now the other thing we could do, so that's more of a 4-way open. So we've done like almost a drop 2. So a drop 2 is where you drop the second voice an octave. So I've got this this root note here, and we're going to bring it up an octave. So here we've got 3rds, and then we've got the 5th category. So let's go through the categories. From the top going down, we've got a 3rd category, a root category, a 7th category, and a 5th category. They're all there. That is a 4-way close. We've got 4 notes closed, and then you can use a drop 2 voicing, or a drop 3 voicing, or a drop 4 voicing to create a 4-way open. So this is a 4-way close. Okay, let's do this one. A minor 7. All right, so we should have one of every note in each category. So what category is that? Anyone guess? Leave in the comments. What category is a G against A minor 7? All right, I'll leave that to you. All right, so I'm just going to voice this just nice and close. And of course, root. Okay, so what have we got here? We've got our X category, which you're going to leave in the comments. We've got our 5th category, so E is the 5th of A. We've got our 3rd category, which is the minor 3rd, the C against A, and then we've got the root category. And we can make this interesting. So minor chords are pretty cool because there's a bit more room to move with less dissonance. So what if we wanted to go, if we wanted a 9th? So we wanted to make this an A minor 9th. So what category do we change to make it a 9th? So we know, I'll just tell you, look, this note, the melody note, is so we've got root, 3rd, 5th, 7th, okay? So to make it a 9th, our root category moves up to the 9th, okay? So we get a 9th, a minor 9th chord. And we could do this with the 5th as well. You could have a 13th if you wanted to, but I'm not going to. And this is a pretty parallel voicing, so this will move quite nicely. Of course, you could use a drop 2 here and open the chord up. We're just going to do this, keep going. All right, so a C against D minor 7. So C is the melody note. That's going to be our 7th category, right? This is the 7th of the chord. So now we're just going to go down and go a 5th category. A against D is our 5th. The F is the minor 3rd. And of course, D is the root category. So we've got each of our categories: root category, 3rd category, 5th category, 7th category. All right, so what are we going to do? I might put the 3rd category in the bass. Cool. So I'm just going to go, You can put it on the bass stave, but I'm being lazy. All right. So we got an F. So this is a four-way open. So we've just turned a four-way close into a four-way open by using a drop 3 voicing. So we've dropped the third voice an octave from F up here to F down here. And this is a much more open chord. And you can hear that. This is called a four-way open. Okay, so what do we want to do here? So our B against G is the third category, of course. So we've got G, B, D, F is a G7 chord. So what we can do, we've got our third category, our root, our fifth category, and of course our third. Now I'm going to make this a four-way close again. Because we've just gone from an open, and I'm going to make it difficult for our horn players. I don't advise this, but we might do it both ways. So we've got I've missed a category. Very sorry. This is why it looks wrong. There we go. That's better. That's a four-way close. So we've got our root category. We've got our third category in the melody. Our third voice provides the seventh category, and of course the fifth category, which is the D. So we've got a four-way close. There. It's standard, stock standard. Let's put some garlic in it. All right, so let's say now we've got a problem with a 13th, because the 13th, which is the 13th is the fifth category that moves. So in this case it would be here. So the problem would be E and F together. So if I moved the D, which is our fifth category, up to the 13th, we've got that all right for an effect, but this is a sustained chord. So an E is not going to work unless we do something with that F, right? You could do like a G13 sus. So you move, in that case, the sus4 is the third category, and you're moving the third to a fourth. And you never voice a third against a fourth, because that's the chord loses its it's tense for one, because you got a clash between the third and the fourth, which is a semitone apart. But also it's one or the other. It's got to be a sus chord, or it's got to be like with a third there. The third is the note that moves. That's why they call it a sus chord. It's a suspended chord. What about a root category? Why don't we move that up to an A? Now, this is tricky, because if this is a melody, I'd be a bit more hesitant about this, because what Gary Lindsay talks about is he talks about a rub against the melody. So anything particularly high up or higher in register that is a second away from the melody will take away from the melody. So a way around this, we could do that. We could still have our G9. Sorry, I'll change the chord symbol to a G9, because our root category has changed. So again, we could use a drop 2 voicing to create a four-way open, right? So let's do that. Cool, four-way open, lovely. And then, or we could make this a four-way close and leave that up there. Doesn't matter. Change the voices, it doesn't matter. Anyway, so here's our root. Okay, so we've got a root category. I'm not a big fan of having a root as a melody on the guitar. This makes it very tricky for chord melody, because you lose, typically you want to put the root in the bass. It means you have to invert the chord. And sometimes it's a bit ambiguous on the guitar. So it's nice not to come across this, but say la vie. This is the melody, and this is the melody we're harmonizing. All right, so C6 again. Let's put our categories in. So our melody note is a root category. I've just put in the third category, which is the E. We're going to put our fifth category in, which is the G. And of course, we need our 7th category, which is B. Okay, this is going to be nasty, sort of. So C major 7, nice, but, you know, it's a tonic chord, so maybe we'll change that. So that should actually be C major 7 at the moment as it stands, but we're not going to do that because we're going to adjust the 7th, the major 7th, down to a 6th. So that's the category that changes for a C6. The category for a 6th chord is that the 7th changes to the 6th. We'll leave it at that. Should we open it or close it? Leave it in the comments. But what I might do is I'll put the mic a bit closer and we'll have a listen to these chords and see how they sound in the piano, and then we'll move to the putting them into the instruments. So I know what you're thinking. You're thinking, what about the consecutive fifths? Well, here's the thing. So Gary Lindsay doesn't talk about consecutive fifths in his book, and the thing is with jazz and jazz lines, the idea is you want the section to sound and move as a unit, and so that involves consecutive fifths. I know that in when you're writing chorale stuff, you avoid consecutive fifths and octaves like the plague. In jazz, it's not so much. Might be a problem when you're intertwining sections, but at this stage we're looking at reeds and brass, so woodwind and brass sections, and you want them to operate as units, and that involves consecutive fifths. And of course, if you're doubling a melody, you're going to have a consecutive melody as well, because if you change, say, if you have a baritone sax mirroring the melody of the soprano sax or an alto sax, to change that to a tenor sax, your melody is going to change and your text is going to change. While if you keep the baritone sax parallel with the alto sax, your texture is going to sound probably tighter because you're not changing the texture of the melody lines, but you've got the harmonies moving between them. And so consecutive fifths and consecutive octaves isn't a huge deal when you're arranging jazz. There are certainly other nuances that we need to be careful of, but it's not. We still use contrary motion, we still use counterpoint and all that, but consecutive fifths and consecutive octaves just isn't a huge thing with jazz. Not like the classical world, or certainly not like your was it grade 3, grade 4 theory books. Not quite like that. We're going into different territory. So a few key things here I had to revise. So always check your work for flat nines and minor seconds. So I've put our chords into our horns. Now, I may have noticed before I had A minor 9 and I had a parallel voicing here. Now the problem with that was that G to A here in the C6 is fine because it's a tone apart. But then I went to, the voicing I had was this. I don't know why I didn't pick this up. You can even hear it. So it's, we've got a minor second between the B and C here. So we've had to change this voicing from an A minor 9 to an A minor 7. Now I still wanted a bit more garlic to that. So because the root category is back in its root in A against this A minor 7, and I've changed to an A minor 11, so I've moved the 5th instead to give us that nice jazz sound. And minor 11 chords are quite nice. The other thing I've changed also is I've changed our alto saxophone to a soprano sax because I wrote it too high. So this can be taken down the octave as well. But this is the beauty about drop 2, drop 3 voicings as well. If your other parts are too high for the instrument, you can always drop those voicings. In this case, this would be drop 1, so I'd take the whole thing down an octave if I was stuck with an alto saxophone, and then I probably wouldn't use four-way open. I'd probably just use four-way close. But in Gary Lindsay's book, in chapter 5, we have our various instruments. So the idea of me changing this is I want to try and create a perfect situation and then adapt it to an imperfect situation. So the perfect situation is 4 saxes, completely in range. Tenor sax is getting a bit low and loses intensity. But just working from chapter 5 of Gary Lindsay's Jazz Arranging Techniques, and our alto saxophone is on page 44, and the concert range is from D flat in the bass. So I'll put our, according to Gary Lindsay, our alto sax range here. Our alto saxophone range is from this is concert, so E, D is from here to, Sibelius doesn't like this, to A flat in the treble. So that's the range we're dealing with there for the alto sax. And the intensity is varies as well. And what I'm going to do now is I'm just going to play this through the speakers again with the horns. And then we're going to try and adapt these techniques to our concert band scenario. So I think I've come to the conclusion that I'm incapable of making a short video about anything to do with music, because whenever I seem to do this, I open a can of worms and trying to find one particular worm in this can of worms. And so what ends up happening is that I'll start with one idea and want to cover so much and end up covering a whole bunch of ideas. So what I've done, I'm going to leave this video here. So what we've done, we've looked at 4-way close and note category voicings, which is what we wanted to. We've done this in the ideal situation of 4 saxes. So the next video is going to be how to adapt it to a concert band, or where the instrumentation is not superb. And so my challenge for you is come up with some backing lines, even some eggs like I've done there, and try and harmonize it for your concert band that you're in. Take 4 instruments that you think will work well together, and provide a texture that you're after, and voice them using 4-way close. Even if it's just a short thing, if you can get them to play it, you might be very surprised. If you're not, and it sounds like rubbish, then try and learn from that. But this is my challenge to you, because the more you arrange, the better you get at it, and it means you can become more valuable to your concert band and have your arrangements played. So that's it. Thank you for watching. Let me know what you think in the comments. Let me know how you go with your project, arranging for 4 instruments in your concert band, and what you learn from it. If you like the music in this video, please leave a comment below, and don't forget to subscribe. That's every little bit helps. Thank you.